All right, breaking down you, Zack, here. In your leg lift, specifically, you're not a long guy, so you got to be careful sitting up too upright or too static in your stretch. Kind of think more like a sprinter. Like you wouldn't want to, if you're sprint, you wouldn't want to start right here, right?
No.
Why do you think a sprinter starts like this?
Athletic stance.
Well, what are the physics that are helping him? When I'm in this position, my force vector, ankle to knee, is in a more linear position. So if I start to push, it's going to go that way. If I'm here, I'm just going to want to jump, right? So now I get this in a better position. Plus, I got my weight over here where I want to go. So when I'm like this, my weight's not there. So now I got to shift my weight over there. Then I got to get this in line to push, right? So same thing with pitching. If you come here and I'm trying to go there and I'm trying to move there, now I'm in a disadvantage. Now I got to shift my weight, align my force vector, and what happens is you only have one stride, and if you don't do that well enough, then you wind up going somewhere else for that energy and you start flying open and stuff. So like a sprinter, I'd want them starting here as opposed to here. Same as a pitcher, I'd like you, even if you're in a windup, is when you come into your lift, you're a little bit forward in that posture, you got that momentum already inside your leg, right? And that, so specifically when you don't have long legs, you need all the energy you can get going that way.
Forward.
Yeah. So you can see when you come out of that lift, we haven't really gone anywhere. So now you're in that athletic position, and you're like this. It'd be like sprinting like this.
Gotcha.
I want to be in that athletic position here, but it's like, whoa, now I'm ready to go, right? Makes sense.
Makes sense.
Okay. So same thing. Coming up and coming out of leg lift, we call it forward and down at the same rate. Forward and down at the same rate. That's the momentum I want to build. Forward and down at the same rate. There's just like any movement, the initial movements are really vital to how you're going to finish the movement, the overall movement. So let's get that more dynamic. So at this point here, you're in a tough position because the sequencing and how our body works when we hit and we throw anything is it comes up the chain, right? We go hit, trunk, arm, right? That's how we start the process. We go whoom, 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 right? So if you're in a position here, what's going to drive your hip? It's the only leg on the ground. This leg's floating. I mean, it can try, but it's not going to be as effective as this leg on the ground.
Right.
So once again, this comes into that vector angle thing. So if I'm going to push force in that ground and I want it to push my hip that way, then I have to get it in that linear direction. So if it's like this and I go to push, it's just going to throw my hip up. So that's the other point of being here. Now when I go, before I land, I want to push my hip through, boom, so I have to get that vector in that position. So you're not in a good position to do that. So what we do is we get here and we go, well, this guy can't help. So this guy will just have to fly it open. And then this guy flies it open, and then the sequencing goes
Yeah, and that's where I was saying, I didn't tell you, but that's where I was seeing your arm at times when I felt like you were kind of missing. It looked like you were.
If an arm is really flying out,
looked like you were
that's
here.
because you're really rotating. Everything's going this way.
Yep.
If you're moving athletically and everything's moving to the target, the arm actually wants to stay with you as you go. It doesn't want to get away.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense.
So you can see you're at a point where you can't drive, so you just start reaching, and then you plant, and then that thing's stuck. So you were here, and you're like, I want to go, but I can't. So I just reached, and I went like that, right? Related to hitting, it looks hilarious. If you're hitting, and you do the same thing, and you're like, well, I can't drive my hips, so I'm just going to reach. Right? For some reason, pitching it doesn't look as weird. But hitting it just makes a lot of sense. Okay? So you hit here, and then this is where we want to look at hip to shoulder separation. Because like, it goes to the whip analogy. If I take a whip, what's the true power of the whip? It's not just how much force I put on the handle, but how far I can get the end from when I create that force. That's why when we start a whip, we'll hang it down, and then we'll bring it up and then drive it back down. Because we're trying to get, when we peak the force, we're trying to get the end of the whip as far away as it can. So all that range to catch up. So same thing here. When I peak the force, I want this as far away as I can. So my arm's back here, and I peak, then it's boom, catches up. But if I go to peak and my arm's right here,
Nothing.
nothing, right? So you can see here, as this is peaking, your arm hasn't cocked yet, but you can see your shoulders are going with it. So it'd be like taking the whip, and as I'm driving the whip down, I'm just throwing everything down with it. This is the handle of the whip, and this is the end of the whip. So I actually want them to go like this. I want this to go that way and this to go back, right? I want this to go that way and I want this to go back. I want to go. It's the same thing I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to go like this, and then that thing tries to finish up.
Nice.
Okay, so that's why when you get to a place to drive, you have to get a place to separate. You got to get away. So you're trying to get this to drive, and you're trying to get this away as far as you can. So, when we do a lot of the drills, that's what you're going to be feeling. You're going to be feeling, okay, how do I pull this away as I drive this through? Okay. And so you can see, as that's peaking, your hips pop up. And then when you look at the sequencing, so how that is the timing of that, and the order of everything. So this looks at the order, and this looks at it angular, so rotationally, and this looks at it linear. So this is going to look at how is it sequencing like this. This looks how is it sequencing like that.
Gotcha.
So take the arm forms out of it. So if we go here, the blue is your glove. So your glove's the first thing to go. So right now your glove's the first thing to go. You think that's what we want? What do you think the first thing we want to go is in an angular sequence?
I guess it would be
Your hip.
your hip.
So it'd be like hitting. Would I want to do this?
No.
Right? So pitching, do I want to do this? Right, so what the first thing hitting, where I want to go, right here? Boom, right? I want to go.
Right.
Same thing here. When I'm pitching, I want to go same thing. So what we're seeing in your order is that this is going first. So just like hitting, you're powering right here and not right here. Make sense?
So in other words, he's pulling his glove, trying to make himself go harder.
Like I said, for some reason it makes sense with hitting. If you see a pitcher do this, you're like, well, that can work. Well, it can work hitting too. It can really get my bat around. But for some reason, it just doesn't. You get it when you see what the hitter's like. Yeah, that ain't gonna work.
That ain't gonna work.
Right. So it goes glove, then it goes hip. But still, your hip's ahead of your trunk, but barely ahead. We would want to see the glove actually synced up with the trunk. The green's the trunk. We would want to see this all going together, right? So this went through, and this all goes together and carries that energy. So I want that blue and the green together, and I want that hip way back here. Meaning that's the end of the whip. And that's the peak of that hip. I want to peak the handle of the whip way before the end peaks. So, and I'm trying to get the end away. So the farther I can pull the hip here and the trunk that way, the harder I throw it. Right? The same thing here. So interesting though, your glove is still going, and it better here too, because Turner's was peaking higher. The glove was peaking higher than anything else. So your glove is starting, it's triggering. It's not really trying to overpower. Turner's was completely overpowering, but he was throwing 85. I mean, it can work that way, but he's capped out. Like if this guy just shut off and this is coming out of its shoes, where are you going to go get more energy? You're going to go in those things that aren't working as well. So the linear, same thing. So linear would be you doing that, right? So that's still going first. I'd still want to, and look at it here. Your hip is after your trunk. Your red is after your trunk. So what's happening is when it comes angular, your hip's going first. But when it comes linear, when it comes into the push forward, it's actually going after. It's kind of following your trunk. So we want to see both. We want to see sequence and rotation and power linear before the trunk. So what's happening is your hips are tight, you're rotating, and it's just shutting off. And this guy's pulling, and this guy's trying to get out, and that's where all your powers come from. We want to see wham, and then all that goes wham, right? Because to me, this is your foundation. It'd be like taking the catapult and pulling the arm back, and the foundation's just all over the place.
Right.
Right? And that's not going to do anything.
Right.
You could have the strongest end of the catapult, the strongest arm, but if that base is like about to crumble, it's not going to work.
Right. You don't know where it's going.
Right. And then you can see if say that was pitch release, look where your trunk is facing in rotation. I mean, from the side view, I could see your numbers. So that means where's all your power in your trunk? Is it rotational or is it linear? Rotational, right? It just That's why the arm's doing that.
Yeah.
Because that's all, you just keep pulling that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's like hitting. Good hitters we're finding, like, Yelich and Harper and those guys, they get all that linear energy through it, right? Same thing with good pitchers. That's why you get the longer strides, you get the farther trunk tilts. You got if you're like in hitting, if you're just overpowering on rotation, you're not going to be as powerful because a lot of your energy is going this way. And golf's the same way. If you're overpowering towards the ball, and you're overpowering towards the target, those guys are a lot more powerful, harder throwers. So you've got too much rotational power. We've got to get more of the linear out. And it's probably because your hips shut off. So all this could do is just keep pulling.